Okay. So I appreciate the information that you shared on the positive classroom practices and how to support staff in implementing those. I feel like most of our staff do a great job managing their classrooms and use, probably a lot of the strategies that you discussed. And there may be a small number of staff who have difficulty with this, but I'm a teacher myself, and as well as a coach. And I'm just wondering, is this really my role as the PBIS coach? Because I don't feel comfortable telling my colleagues how to run their classrooms.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes, this is your role and it's super exciting, and the opportunities that you have to make change to better students and to better adults that are in their lives. What a great chance for you. But the longer answer is, thinking back to our triangle, right? And you just filled it out for us. Most of your staff are providing the correct interventions and are using the resources, and it's just a small amount right at the top that might need a little bit more help to figure out how best to implement it with their with the way that they operate, with their strengths that they already have. How can we bring in PBIS resources, interventions, and strategies to build on what it is that they're already doing? And so I think your question is a bit bigger than, is this my job? But it's, how do I best do this within my job? And in my experience, it's that relationship building and building that foundation. You can't affect change on a child without having a relationship with that child. And it sounds silly comparing it to how to affect change on an adult, but at the end of the day, we're all humans and we all want that connection, right? And so thinking about that relationship building and how important that is, does anybody else in the crowd ideas of, have you had this difficulty? How do you get to those, 5-8% that are up there? Yes, Mara.
I think that it can be a very awkward relationship initially, especially if the climate of the school isn't one that's super supportive of one another. But I do think that kind of building that, we're working together, we're a team, I'm here to support you, is so important, because otherwise teachers are like, well, who are you to come into my class? You're my colleague, you're not an administrator. So I totally hear you, Katie, that it can be really awkward. But I think that building that rapport and changing the climate into one of support is important.
Thank you. Yeah, so that is a big piece, is really how you are viewed. And I think that was a good point, where what is the climate of the school? Are your school-wide strategies being implemented really well? And maybe that is a focus that you can bring in with those classroom teachers. I'm like, well, you do a great job with hallway or with universal expectations and those pieces. How can we implement those in the classroom? What is it that they're doing well? What are their strengths with school-wide implementation? And how can you sneak that into their classroom expectations? And again, you're not there to force them into doing things. You're there to help them, right? And making sure that that's how they see you.
Yeah, and I guess that's where I'm struggling a little bit, is I'm afraid it's going to be seen as, me or others telling people what to do. And I agree with what you said, Mara, about it depends on the climate. And I guess I'm just not really sure how to shift that climate as one person.
And you won't, because you are one person. And so you also need to accept that. It's, what are the things that you do have within your control? And what are the things that you don't have within your control? So at the end of the day, again, there's going to be a group right at the top of that triangle who are unable to implement it the way that is with fidelity and that's helpful, right? And so as you are trying to shift the culture of the school, focus on those opportunities and those players at the bottom who really get it and are excited about it. If you start to focus on that, then that excitement will hopefully make its way up to the top of the triangle. There may just be some people that you can't change, and you also need to be okay with that. You need to look at it as we are looking at classroom expectations and classroom implementation, but what does the culture of the school look like? And if that's where you need to start, that might be where you need to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that idea of highlighting the great positive practices that that many of our staff are implementing, and then it will be less of me, one person saying do X, Y, Z, and more just kind of putting a spotlight on lots of other people.
And so I think I'm out of time, but I'm just going to say this in general, just thinking, through it, is it a matter of having coaches within the classrooms, or not coaches, but role models, and having opportunities for people to look at different classrooms throughout the process so they can see what you're not targeting them because they're doing it wrong or they're not implementing it well, but can you have everybody have a chance to look at other classroom and how they're being implemented? There's just a universal learning happening. So that might be an option.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks.